I would like to welcome you to today's session. Without further delay, I would now like to introduce our speaker today, Mr. Anand Verma. Mr. Anand Verma is a fellow member of the Institute of Company Secretaries of India. He holds a law degree and is a postgraduate in commerce. Mr. Verma is the founder and managing partner of the legal consultancy firm Team Legal with its head office at Noida. Mr. Verma has wide experience of more than 12 years. He specializes in intellectual property laws, corporate law, FEMA, insolvency, NCLT, and RERA cases. Mr. Verma is also a certified trademark agent. He had served as company secretary in the Office of Official Liquidator attached with the Delhi High Court and has the privilege of assisting more than 10 committees appointed by Delhi High Court, headed by retired High Court judges, district and session judges, joint registrars, Delhi High Court, and senior lawyers of the Supreme Court of India. So, without further delay, I would now like to request Mr. Verma to please start with his presentation. Today, we'll be discussing some important and landmark judgments, and most importantly, some recent judgments in the intellectual property cases that have taken place over this year by the Delhi High Court and district courts as well. Over to you, Mr. Verma.
Thanks, Divyesh. A warm welcome to all the participants of the webinar. I hope everybody is safe in this COVID-19 pandemic and everybody must be taking appropriate safety measures for yourself and your family members. Today webinar is on the important landmark judgments on IP. See, what are the importance of judgments in the intellectual property right? These are not just judgments. You go by each and every judgment, there is a message behind them. You are now a student, or you are a fresher lawyer, or you are, if anybody, law students are uh, aiming to practice an intellectual property rights, then these judgments are a very basic structure it will form for your practice, or if you join a company. So these judgments, either it is in the trademark, copyright, patent, or any of the stream of the trademark. So there are total 8 trademarks. So there are total 8 trademarks, as everybody know. Trademark. Uh, uh, there are 8 types of IPR. First one is trademark. Second is copyright. Third one is patent, industrial designs, geographical indications. Sixth one is trade secret. Seventh is plant varieties, and eighth is the semiconductor integrated layout circuit design. I will not go in very details in all those uh, 8 categories, but our judgment would be mostly based on trademark, copyright, and patent. But all those, this industrial designs, geographical indication, trade secrets are also very much important. All these 8 IPRs are governed by their respective act, Trademarks Act 1999, similarly Copyright Act. But out of these, one that is trade secrets, it is not governed by any of the act. But also there are judgments belonging to the trade secret. It is generally governed by the contractual law, the contract law. But trade secret is one of the most important IPR, and many cases we have seen or experienced in this trade secret. For example, trade secret, uh, KFC, the chicken which KFC prepares, it has its trade secret. The McDonald's burger has its trade secret. The Coca-Cola, the taste of Coca-Cola drink has its trade secret. If that trade secret will known to anybody, or if any rival will use that trade secret, then the very purpose or very foundation of the business will fall. So let's move on to the important recent trademark judgments. So why I have taken this is the first just which we will be discussing today. It is between Marico Limited versus Abhijit Bansali. I have taken this judgment as the first judgment because see, after pandemic, we have been seeing that the online is the new normal. Everybody, every person, every institution, and moreover, the education industry has shifted to the online uh, mode of study. So, in this Marico Limited, there was one person. This case was filed by Marico Limited against Mr. Avijit Bansali. So, Avijit Bansali runs a YouTube channel by the name of Bearded Chokra. So, what he claims that uh, he has a degree in bio field, and he uh, demonstrate different products and tell about the benefits and disadvantages of that product. So in one of its YouTube video, he uh, he covered the parachute about coconut oil. So his main theme was whether that parachute coconut oil is pure, and he demonstrated the Marico's parachute product in the video. So what happens in this case is that Marico Limited is the leading player in the FMCG, and that manufactures and markets packaged edible oil, edible coconut oil, hair oil, and all beauty and most of the beauty products. So, uh, what what allegation this this Marico has put on the Mr. Abhijit Bansali, that Abhijit Bansali runs his own channel by the name of Bearded Chokra on a popular website youtube.com. So he claims that he has a master's degree in biotechnology, and in one of the video dated 1st September 2018, he video titled, the name of the video was also titled as whether parachute coconut oil is 100% pure or not. So he reviewed that parachute coconut oil, and he uh, uh, told some false and unsubstantiated defects about the parachute coconut oil. So the plaintiff was aggrieved by this, and immediately he filed the case in Bombay High Court, and the Bombay High Court passed an injunction against Mr. Avijit Bansali and in favor of the parachute, and said that under the garb of educating the public, one cannot provide misleading information to disparage any product. uh, Court also ordered Mr. Avijit Bansali to take down the video. So, so this is a very much important thing that everyone, whether in the education industry or any field, is moving on to the Internet of Things, moving on to the website. So, on when we are posting anything on the website, if we are talking about any products or anything, we have to take utmost care that the someone's we cannot present any false picture of anybody's product or anybody brand image, because see, a building a image takes a lot of time. It is not a one day work. It is a lot of sweat and hard work involved in that. And if anyone overnight takes advantage of that uh, brand or trademark and earn money and commercialize that thing on some false foundation or false information, then anybody can land into big trouble. So in this case, Mr. Abhijit Vansali had to take down this video from the YouTube, and he was also reprimanded that since social media is one of the influential platform these days, it can do good. And in this case, the High Court goes on stating that social media can do good to a society and it can also do worse. So this is in this era of digitization, we have to be very much sure that anything, if we are claiming anything, if you are talking about any product, so it is not that you are, if you are on YouTube, nobody is watching you. If you are, if you have your own website, if you are taking advantage of, you cannot, you can do this, you can do for certain period of time, but certainly you will come into the picture and land into trouble. Let's move on to the next case. This is also a very important case. This is also decided on 22nd January 2020. Similarly, the Marico case was also belonged to this year only. So in this case, Nike Innovate CV versus GB Shoe. So Delhi District Court has in this, the Nike filed a case in Delhi District Court. Why I am taking, there are 3 to 4 cases of District Court, because this is the District Court has is the minimum judicial court where one can file cases under section 134 and 135 of the Trademark Act to get an injunction against the opposite party. So one have to move the District Court for that. In this, there are 3 footwear companies: GB Shoe, Vishal Footwear, and New Hira Shoes. So, so these uh, these were uh, these were manufacturing similar products using the trademark as Nike and Shosh. It is the logo of Nike. So uh, uh, once the Nike came into knowledge that these 3 persons are manufacturing their product and using the trademark of Nike and shoes and earning a large amount of profit on the name of Nike. The case has been filed. Uh, the case has been filed in Delhi District Court, and accordingly, the District Court uh, ordered injunction in favor of the Nike, and also a very important thing, cost has also been levied on the defendants. In all those 3 defendants uh, has been ordered to pay 50,000 each. Uh, Total cost of 1,50,000 all those 3 defendants, and also the Delhi District Court ordered that all the goods which were manufactured by these 3 manufacturers and were lying in the godown of these 3 have to be handed over to the plaintiff, that is Nike in this case, because you cannot do these things. So in the earlier case also, the Marico case, I told that to a certain point of time you can take advantage, but after that you will get caught off, because these companies, Nike is operating in India since 1971. So uh, till that it has a very large market share, and uh, anybody across India, if is using these type of if infringing their trademark or brand, then they will get immediately cut off, because their legal team, they have a dedicated legal team for this only, that no one could use their brand name. Otherwise, what is the purpose of operating from last 50 years? So these are the things one have to keep in mind. Let's move on to the next case. The next case is also a similar one like uh, Nike. It is the Puma Say versus Mr. Vikas Jindal. So what happens in this case, that this case was also filed by the Puma, which is a German sports footwear brand, in the Patiala House Court for permanent injunction against Mr. Vikas Jindal. He was a Ludhiana-based businessman proprietor and using the brand name and logo of Puma. That, and he was misrepresenting and public under the confusion that Mr. Vikas Jindal is selling the products of Puma, and the cost of the product was also very high. So the public was under impression that they are purchasing the product of Puma. So and he has earned also a considerable profit. So Patiala House Court immediately given injunction in favor of Puma, and uh, uh, and ordered Vikas Jindal to pay a nominal damage of rupees 50,000 for products selling under the name of Puma trademark. So all these cases show that these are very basic things which one have to keep in mind, because see, you are uh, if you are going to practice as an IPR practitioner, either you are doing your own practice or you will be employed in a company. So if you are, even if you are doing your own practice, then one client will come to you and say that I want to get my trademark registered. So trademark, just it shows a very simple thing that, oh, you have to get your trademark registered. But before that, you have to do lots of exercise, lot of research work, whether that product is registrable or not, whether someone is already using that product or not, on that basis, and what are the chances of getting that trademark or logo. The trademark is registered as a logo or as a word. For example, if Pepsi, you can register the name also, and you can register the logo also. So before, if any client come to you, you have to give a very detailed advice, and also that advice should be futuristic. What are the options that you can be, which competitor will come into picture if you file this trademark, or what are the chances of getting that trademark. So not only these judgment will let you know that many of must be person who are teaching online. So anybody can use any published book or any published information. So that is infringement. You cannot do that. You have to bring the original material, because the person who has already done a lot of research and lot of work, and is in his work is being used in a very nominal manner, then his work will, then there is no use of that. So even if you are going into a company, you are only responsible, you are the custodian, being a legal representative of the company. You are the custodian of their brand, of their interest, because if you cannot uh, protect their interest, then what is the use of being a legal representative? What is the use of being practicing as a IPR? So these are very much important things. So don't see this as a judgment that, oh, this judgment happened. You have to apply it practically. Everything has a practical aspect, and until and unless you will gain the practical insight into everything, you will lack something. It's my request as a speaker, and as a knowledge which I possess in the intellectual property right. The practical aspect of everything is very much important, and each one of you has to apply that. Uh, the, there is a one important trademark judgment on cyber squatting. What is cyber squatting? Cyber squatting is the practice of registering names, especially well-known company or brand names, as internet domains in the hope of reselling them at a profit. For example, you are starting a website. If you are starting a website, then then you first thing you need is to register your domain name, www.abc.com. So if, what do people do in this business, if there is any brand which is very gradually getting momentum or getting known in the market, for example, abc.com, there is a website. So what these people cyber squatters will do, they will register a similar name with some difference, but it will create uh, impression in the mind of the people that this is the a sister concern of a or a similar company of the main brand. For example, abc.com is the company who has registered his website doing business in its name, but some person wants to take advantage of the trade name or the brand name of that company. They will register abc.org, abc.in. So, so he will start some activity on that domain name by building a website. Building a website is not a very tough task nowadays, because every business is now online and going, and in the coming 4 to 5 years, every business has to be online mandatorily, otherwise they will not survive. So cyber squatting, one has to take uh, keep in mind. So in this case, Yahoo Inc. versus Akash Arora, what happened in this case? It was the first landmark judgment of cyber squatting, and Delhi High Court, the first time ever in India, held that a domain name serves the same function as trademark and is entitled to equal protection. That it doesn't mean that if you can, because domain name is not registered by trademark registrar. Domain name is registered under, for example, there are companies like GoDaddy or domains.in. They are responsible for registering the domain name. So it doesn't, you cannot claim that no, I have registered it under the GoDaddy.com, so I have every right. But in this case, the Yahoo Inc. Yahoo, the person was operating a similar website by the name of Yahoo India. So in this, what has happened? The Yahoo Inc. company objected to it, that it gives the impression that this website is of Yahoo, but it was not. So someone, Mr. Akash Arora, was uh, running this website, Yahoo India. So the court held that internet users would be confused and deceived into believing that both the domain names have same source. So Akash Arora in this case taken a defense that uh, I have put a disclaimer on its website, a disclaimer that this website is different from Yahoo website. It is a different, altogether different. But court also rejected his defense that say no, just by putting a disclaimer will not work, uh, and also it taken a defense that Yahoo is a dictionary word. So in this case, uh, uh, the name court held that the name possesses acquired distinctiveness and uniqueness and was largely associated with the plaintiff, and plaintiff was largely using it as a brand name. So the court passed order in favor of Yahoo Inc. and against the Akash Arora. Now let's move on to the next case. Now see, passing off. This is very much important uh, section of the trademark, passing off. So what is passing off generally means? Passing off is a common law tort which can be used to enforce unregistered trademark rights. The tort of passing off protects the goodwill of a trader for misrepresentation. And there is a section, section 29 of the Trademarks Act, which very specifically says that aspects of infringement of trademark, it it illustrates that when a person is using in course of trade any mark which is identical or deceptively similar to a registered mark, and which he is not entitled or license to use shall be deemed to infringe onto the rights of the person who has the lawful right over the mark. For example, if a person is using a registered mark and gaining benefits without having any permission or license from the original trademark holder. So there is a very important case here is DM Entertainment versus uh, Baby Gift House. So what happened in this case? DM Entertainment and Baby Gift House case. So DM Entertainment is Daler Mehdi Entertainment. DM Entertainment is actually the Daler Mehdi Entertainment. So in this, the Daler Mehdi name was already registered as a trademark. So, so what happened in this case? The Baby Gift House was manufacturing miniature toys, small toys of Daler Mehdi, and selling in the market. And Daler Mehdi, without any license or any permission from Daler Mehdi. So Daler Mehdi was running a company by the name DM Entertainment Private Limited, Daler Mehdi Entertainment Private Limited, and everybody knows that he was a famous pop star singer in 90s. I think in from 90 to 2000 he was very much famous. So uh, the this Baby Gift House, what does they do? They were making a large business by selling miniature dolls of Dalar Mehdi and cashing on his popularity. The the DM Entertainment, when came to know, was very much aggrieved, and they filed a case for permanent injunction from infringing the artist's right of publicity and false endorsement. So this was leading to passing off. So, so in this case, the court also passed order in favor of Daler Mehndi Entertainment Private Limited, and also and the very strong defense put by the plaintiff, that is DM Entertainment, that the unauthorized or unlicensed use of artist reputation with respect to goods or services will deceive the public into believing that the goods and services are associated with the singer and hence would lead to passing off. So this was a very important case considered because it dealt with the issue of celebrity merchandising, where the publicity rights of the artist was given due recognition. The court said no, until and unless the the celebrity will provide its right to some third party, the third party without the permission of the the celebrity cannot do this, otherwise it will deem to be passing off. The second case, very important, Cadila Healthcare versus Cadila Pharmaceutical Private uh, Cadila Healthcare versus Cadila Pharmaceutical Limited. So the very important judgment which Supreme Court, the Honorable Supreme Court held in this case, that it is immaterial whether the plaintiff and defendant trade in the same field or in the similar products. So by deciding this case, the the Supreme Court has laid certain criteria to determine passing off of an unregistered uh, trademark. So what are the criteria? That before deciding the passing off, what are the major things which the court needs to see? The first is the nature of the marks, that is whether it is label or it is a composite mark. The second, the degree of resemblance between the marks. Third, the nature of goods for which the marks are used. Fourth, similarities in the nature. character and performance of goods of rival traders, the class of purchasers who are likely to buy goods bearing the marks, the method of purchasing the goods or placing orders, and other circumstances that may be relevant. Because without considering all these 7 points, a court cannot decide that whether this is a case of passing off or not. So these things one has to keep in mind if you are going to file a case for passing off this important judgment of Cadila Healthcare and Cadila Pharmaceutical decided by Honorable Supreme Court of India. And section 29 you have to keep in mind, that will help you in passing off. So let's move on to the next slide. It is a very important case, a very recent case decided in June 2020. It was the case, uh, the Madras High Court says, Madras High Court decided this case on 10th June 2020, and it was filed by ITC against Nestle India. So what was the claim? It was a very a product a product of the ITC bears the mark Magic Masala, and one of the product of Nestle India bears the tagline Magical Masala. So both of them were not claiming that this was the trade name or brand name registered in any of the company's name, but they were claiming that ITC has used this name Magic and Masala before Nestle India, so it has the monopoly over the name. So Nestle India says, no, I am not using Magic Masala. I have changed the word. It was the Magical Masala. So and it was a very common word, and therefore in this case neither plaintiff nor the defendant can dissect a portion of a label and claim monopoly over it, as the plaintiff cannot claim monopoly over the expression Magic and Masala. So the court said that even though there is phonetic similarity, see what is phonetic similarity? Like if you are talking on a phone and you spell a word, you spell two words, that Magic and Magical. So if the person on the other side said, what is the difference? Magic and Magical, both are same. So in there are many cases, even if there are phonetic similarity, the court has decided that one cannot use this name or trade name and has to absolve from it. But here court says that even though there is a phonetic similarity between the words magic used by the plaintiff and the words magical used by the defendant, plaintiff here is ITC and defendant here is the Nestle. Nevertheless, they are incapable of being monopolized, as they are not only laudatory but also common to trade, because court says that they are very laudatory words and very common. Uh, ITC and Nestle cannot claim that I am using it before and I am twisted the word, but seeing a larger picture, there are many products in the FMCG, fast moving consumer goods, were using the word magic and magical. So court cannot decide. So court has said that there is no claim over monopoly over the words magic and masala. So this is very interesting case, and this was the very latest case decided on 10th June 2020. So uh, this is also, yeah. Let's move on to the next case. This is the Milmet Opto Industries others versus Elargon Inc. So this is also why I put this case here. That this was the case decided by the Indian court for protection of foreign brands in India. So if someone uh, who is going as a IPR professional, and if you are getting a chance to get a product registered in different countries, then there are procedure available in India that you can at a time register uh, the trade name, the label or composite mark or a word as in 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 so many countries in which the India is a signatory. So what happens in that? If you are filing from India uh, a product, if you are launching in India and you are futuristic about that product and you have targeted that next year I will launch that product in Japan also. Then so at the very outset when you are applying your application for the trademark registration in India, you can apply it in Japan also or any other country in which you want. But you have to make sure that India is a signatory to that country. Then in a single application you can file in more than 10 or 20 countries. So in this case, a uh, foreign brand came into India, and uh, it finds that some local company was using that brand name. So in this landmark case, the Supreme Court extended the protection guaranteed under trademark law in India to a well-known foreign brand. The court restrained an Indian company from using the mark Ocuflux. The Indian company was using the mark Ocuflux. The court restrained it from using. The court judgment was given irrespective of the fact that the US company has neither used the mark in India in the Indian market, nor the mark was registered. So the court held that the respondent in this case was first to enter the market and adopt the mark. Also, the fact that the respondent has not used the mark in the in is insignificant if they were the first to enter the world market. So it was also laid down that in the fields of healthcare and medicine, all possibilities of deception and confusion should be prevented, keeping in mind that public interest is not jeopardized. So keeping the interest of public in mind, the Supreme Court decided this case in favor of the foreign brand, that Allergon Inc. Let's move on to the next slide. This is the this is one of the case of prior use of trademark. Also very uh, important concept, and section 34 of the Trademark Act covers this. What is prior use of trademark? For example, if you are going for registering a trademark, whether a word with as a composite mark, so there is a column when you fill the application form that uh, whether you are using this mark uh, from past, from so many years, or so you have to uh, fill in that column that yes, we are using that mark from 2005, from 2010, 2018, like this. For that you have to put a affidavit in the trademark application. So in this case, what what happened in this case, the prior use of trademark, even if your trademark is not registered, then also you can be protected by the court. Since if you are using that trademark from 15 years, you are using that trademark from 20 years, and by somehow you have not registered that mark, but someone came into the market with similar mark and operating in the market from last 6 months or 1 year, then you have a superior right over that. So in this case, RJ Components and SAPS versus Mrs. Deepak Industries, the Delhi High Court passed the judgment and recognized the legal principle of prior use of mark. The court's verdict in the case has reiterated that law that prior use of mark will override the subsequent user even if the subsequent user has registered the trademark. Very much important that even the person who operates after the person who was operating before in the market and also obtained the trademark registration, then also the the interest of the prior use of the mark holder will be considered, because he was operating from last so many years. He has built its reputation so many people are dependent on that mark. Their livelihood was going on the basis of that mark. So the court decided. So in this Delhi High Court, recognized the prior use as the superior right, which also prevails over the registered proprietor of a similar or identical trademark, and injuncted the plaintiff from using the mark NAW. The mark which was dispute was NAW, NAW. Similarly, in Neon Laboratories Limited, also versus Medical Technologies Limited, the Supreme Court appointed that the registered proprietor of a trademark does not possess the right to prevent use by another party of an identical mark if that use commenced prior to the use of that registered mark. Similar thing. Let's move on since we have a limitation of the time. Let's move on to the next case. This is also one of the very important keys. It was date back to 1900, 1923 or something first case, but there is a concept in the trademark acquisitions. So this concept is very much important, but this judgment is relevant today also. So what is the basis of this judgment? Delay simpliciter is no defense in trademark infringement suit. What is that? Acquiescence by the appellant to the use of the respondent of the mark Lakshman Dhara. So the respondent by the name Satyadev Gupta had applied for registration of the trade name of a medicinal preparation Lakshman Dhara in relation to the medicinal preparation since 1923. It was admitted by the respondent that the respondent product was mainly sold in the state of Uttar Pradesh and there were only sporadic sales in other states. The appellant, who was the appellant? Amrit Dhara Pharmacy. The respondent was Satyadev Gupta. His brand name was, his medicinal preparation was Lakshman Dhara, and the appellant was Amrit Dhara Pharmacy. Opposed the registration of the mark Lakshman Dhara on the ground that it had an exclusive proprietary interest in the trademark Amrit Dhara in relation to similar medicinal preparation which has acquired considerable reputation since 1901, and that the respondent trade name Lakshman Dhara was likely to deceive and cause confusion, and the registration was prohibited by section 8 and 10(1) of the Trademarks Act. In response to the same, the respondent filed a counter affidavit raising the defenses of honest concurrent user and acquiescence on the part of appellant as the respondent was using the mark Lakshman Dhara since 1923. So what were the main issues involved in this case? Whether the name Lakshman Dhara was likely to deceive the public or cause confusion to trade within the meaning of section 8 and 10(1) of the Act, whether there was such acquiescence on behalf of the appellant in the use of the name Lakshman Dhara of the state of Uttar Pradesh as to bring it within its expression special circumstances mentioned in section 10 of the Trademarks Act. What is acquiescence? I have used many times acquiescence. Acquiescence means you are aware that this brand is your competitor and it is using the similar name, or it is using your name, or it is using your business concept, even though you keep you keep quiet on that. Either you have some business relationship with your competitor, or by whatever reason you are keep quiet on that. So that is called acquiescence. So in many cases, court had said that why if you were in knowledge, if you're in if you are known already that your this is he is your competitor or the said company is your competitor, and using the brand name or using uh, the the similar trade name or in trade name uh, in uh, in infringement of the your trade, so one cannot claim acquiescence, one cannot claim right over that. So in this, it was a very important the registrar of trademark held that there was sufficient similarity between Amrit Dhara and Lakshman Dhara so as to cause a confusion, and it was likely to deceive the public. But the acquiescence of the appellant in the use of the trade name Lakshman Dhara by the respondent in relation to his product for a long period to the knowledge of the appellant was a special uh, circumstance entitling the respondent to have his name registered along with appellant's trade name. Registrar, however, confined the registration to itself to the state of Uttar Pradesh only. Registrar said that no, this could be registered. So they moved to the High Court. High Court reversed the order of the Registrar of Trademarks and uh, and given decision uh, in favor of uh, the plaintiff, and then the defendant moved to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court again reversed the order of the High Court and upheld the order of the Registrar of Trademark. So this is one of the very much important case in deciding this uh, delay simpliciter. There is no difference in trademark infringements and acquisitions. Let's move on to the new slides. And now we will discuss the copyright judgment. Important copyright judgment. Section 17C. In the case, the section 17C of the copyright they, states that in the case of a work made in the course of author's employment under a contract of service or apprenticeship to which clause A or clause B does not apply, the employer shall, in the absence of any agreement to the contrary, be the first owner of the copyright therein. It is very much important case. This is this is the case of Neetu Singh versus Rajiv Soumitra. What happened in this case? Let I give you some background about this case, or it is a very general nature of thing which happens. For example, if a person is running a company and he employs uh, he people uh, some employee in its organization, and they uh, they prepare some work. So uh, generally the company what the what the company will do, the company will pay remuneration, pay you can say the monthly what to say, the uh, the monthly salary to the employee. So every company enters into an agreement with the employer, that is called an employment agreement. Whenever you go to do a job in that company, mm, try to do a job in that company, then what what happens? The company will execute an employment agreement with you. So in that employment agreement, it was specifically written that it will be written in the employment agreement that all the IPR created by you during your tenure will be uh, subject to the ownership of the company only, and you are being paid for that. In this case, what happened? The um, the one of the employee, one of the director of the company, he was being he claimed that uh, the literary work happened during his tenure. He is the owner of that because he was involved in mainly creating that literary work. The case moved to the court. The court the court um, the court said that no, until and unless you have some specific written agreement here that yes, the company said ki whatever the work generated by you will have your ownership. You cannot claim ownership on that. So the plaintiff was working as a director of the defendant number two in the company from 2012 to 2014, and the court noted that the defendant had failed to prove that the literary work was authored as part of her duties and obligations, and as director and granted an injunction in favor of the plaintiff, that is favor of the company. So so you have to take care, because all these agreements, the employment agreement, these are very much important. Not because at the time when you are seeking for a job, you don't see that you are giving interviews, one company, two company, three company are waiting for the job. Suddenly you got a breakthrough, and you don't see, the company will say we are sending employment contract, you have to sign it and send it today. So before signing you must go through that, so that afterwards if anything comes in picture, you must, if you want any provisions or any clause to be modified or removed, you should do at that point only, because after signing you don't have any rights on that. In this case, Indian Performing Society versus Eastern Indian Motion Pictures, this was also the case of copyright ownership. So in this IPRS, Indian Performing Society, Registered Society, had claimed royalty on royalty, and Honorable Supreme Court observed that the cinematograph film producer becomes the first owner of the copyright. IPRS cannot claim the right over the composition of the moment it comes into existence. An authority of producer of the cinematograph film cannot be questioned, because the producer who has created the cinematography, he is the owner. Not if any association, five people came into picture and make an association. It was happening in the Bollywood in the early 70s and 80s. There were a group of some persons who said, you know, even I don't know you are aware or not, the celebrities like Rajesh Khanna, Jitendra, Amitabh Bachchan, they were on payrolls. They were paid monthly remuneration. This Raj Kapoor studios and all, they have the uh, contract with these persons that they will pay monthly to you, and for 5 years you will work for Raj Kapoor Studios only. So they were on. So these were the infringement of the right of a person. So similarly, in this IP, Indian Performing Society versus Eastern Indian Motion Pictures Limited, the Supreme Court held that the producer is the owner, not any association. Sorry. Let's move on to the next slide. This is no copyright in relation to an idea, subject matter, themes, plots, or historical or legendary facts. So this was the case of G. Anand versus Deluxe Films and others. So what is that no copyright in relation to an idea, subject matter, themes, plots, or historical or legendary facts? For example, you sit with a friend and you discuss some concept or idea. Let's see, I am I have an idea in my mind, and I want to start this, I want to do this, and these are my plans. I will do this in 6 months, I will do this in 1 year, I will do this in 5 years. So this is a 5 year plan, and I will create this product. Okay, you sit, you discussed, idea gone, you were not serious, nothing. The friend with whom you have discussed, he has taken that idea very seriously, and he has started working on that. One fine day you see, oh, what is this coming on TV? Arey, this serial? Arey, this is the concept, this is my concept. You immediately call your friend. Hey, I have given you this idea, and how could you, you have to pay me. This is my idea. How could you do this? So even if you move to the court will say you cannot claim right over any idea, subject matter, themes, plots until you have the registration of that idea or themes, plot or story in your name. So in this G. Anand versus Deluxe Films and others, the Honorable Supreme Court in the stand case held that infringement is restricted only to the form, manner, arrangement, and expression of idea by the author of the copyright work. Supreme Court further stated that courts should settle on whether the similarities are substantial or fundamental in nature, or not with respect to the mode of expression adopted in the work. If substantial or fundamental portion has been copied, then it would amount as infringement. So there are many ingredients which court needs to look into before deciding these type of cases. Or prima facie idea and subject matter cannot be claimed to be copyright unless you have some concrete registration or concrete work in that. For example, you have started that work, you have left that work in between, and then someone from there took on with. So there you can claim, but just by expressing idea or any theme or plot, that will not work. Sanjay Kumar Gupta versus Sony Pictures, Sony Picture Networks Limited. So the appellant in this case, Sanjay Kumar Gupta, had a concept termed Jito Unlimited, where home viewers of quiz show could participate live in a quiz show and were rewarded for answering correctly. It was alleged that on presenting this concept to Sony, they were compelled to sign a consent letter which allowed Sony to use the concept without incurring any liability. The case was decided in favor of KBC makers by relying on the famous R.G. Anand versus Deluxe Film, the above judgment. Because this became G. Anand case became landmark in these type of scenarios. So let's move on to the next. Yeah, it was also very much important and very interesting case. Section 2O, that is the literary work of the Copyright Act. This was the case of University of Oxford versus Rameswari Photocopy Services. So what has happened in this case? If many of you from must be from DU, so you must have seen that there are many persons who are running copyright shops. Sorry, running the Xerox shops. Copy they are uh, copying machines. With copying machines, they are running the Xerox shops. So what they do, for example, uh, you were you need some notes or material before your exam or for studying for say in trade you need some material, a book on trademark. So what has happened that you go to that shop and you say ki I need a book on trademark. They say ki why you need a book? I that book we have the copyright, we have the Xerox copy of that book. You can keep it that and it will be very much uh, it will cost you less than the original book. So these were the uh, very prevalent practice anywhere, not only in Delhi or nearby any college or school across India. So in this case, the infamous DU photocopy case was landmark copyright violation case in India. The genesis of this case lies in an prevalent practice University of Delhi, where I said where photocopy shops copy reading material from prescribed textbooks and sell it to students at subsidized rates. To contest the same, the chancellors, masters, and scholars of University of Oxford filed a case against Rameswari Photocopy Services. It was near DU, alleging them that the copyright infringement under Section 2O of the Copyright Act. Oxford, it doesn't came from the foreign Oxford was the company which was has its origin in the beyond India, not in India, outside India. So, but Oxford, there are many branches of Oxford in India, Oxford Press, which were operating in Delhi, Mumbai, and many metropolitan cities, and also in small cities where much of educational and colleges activities goes on, or much colleges are established. So this Oxford filed a case against Ramaswamy Photocopy Services against under Section 2 of the Copyright Act. The publishers, what happened in this case? The publishers, that is the Oxford had to withdraw their lawsuits against the defendants, and as it was observed that the shop had a legal license to operate within the North Campus premises of Delhi University. And what was the basis beyond that? Copyright is not a divine right, and it is intended to increase the harvest of knowledge, not impede it. Photocopying with the objective of spreading knowledge and fostering education does not constitute as copyright infringement. The court says that copyright is not a divine right, and it is the main intention of it to increase the harvest of knowledge and not to impede it. So the photocopying with the objective of spreading knowledge and fostering education does not constitute copyright infringement. This is very much important case in copyright infringement. So you must keep in mind. Let's move on to the next. Similarly, these two cases, the Associated Press versus Shepard Fairey. In this, Associated Press had published a photograph of Barack Obama in 2008, and a street artist named Shepard Fairey took the image and turned it into a polarized poster. The artist's design rapidly gained popularity as the Hope poster, which was used in Obama's first presidential election in January 2009. Associated Press demanded compensation for the photograph because when Obama contested in the election, that image uh, of the artist created by artist Shepard Fairey gained a large momentum. It was very much famous across America. So what was the Associated Press filed case against that and demanded compensation. So what was the outcome? Fairey and Associated Press came to a private settlement in January 2011, part of which included sharing the profits made by the poster. A proper license to use copyrighted work could have saved both parties a lot of time and energy. So what is the outcome of this case? That uh, Shepard Fairey has to take a back step in this, and uh, Associated Press also uh, given some compensation to the mm, Shepard Perry has to part some profits made from the poster. So it was a generally out of court settlement. So what is the main basic foundation of this case is that the a proper license is very much necessary. And trademark also I have said, even that is what I have said in passing off, that you must have a proper license or a permission from the original owner of the mark. Similarly, in the copyright, Vanilla Ice versus David Bowie and Freddie Mercury. In this case, it goes around the song "Ice Ice Baby" by Vanilla Ice. The song sampled but did not create the song under pressures by. But this song "Ice Ice Baby" was uh, marketed by Vanilla Ice, but the song uh, was original of by Mr. David Bowie and Queen, and but the song title was Under Pressure, but Vanilla Ice, while advertising this song Ice Ice Baby, did not given any credit to David Bowie. Denying at first, Vanilla Ice did admit to using the same melody. The, in this case also, it was out of court settlement, and this Vanilla has to part some um, compensation to the David Bowie and Queen. So the lesson is that no good ever comes from copying other artists' work. Or in this era of what to say, when everything is going on a digital mode, so we have to take utmost care. Even your website, you can get the copyright of your website material if that is original and been drafted by you. If the content is drafted by you, you can get it copyright of your website, each and every page. For example, if your website has 100 pages, you can get it copyright. 100 pages, you can compile it, you can get a copyright of the single page, everything you can do. So that if anyone can claim what, what, when the problem will arise, problem will not arise at the initial stage. The problem will arise at the time when you will grow big, when you when you when you when your sweat comes gives you the stage when you start earning revenue. In that case, in that case, uh, you suddenly you start facing competition, similar product. So until and unless you have first registration, you cannot claim right over that. So always protect right of your client, whether it is trademark, copyright, or patent. Let's move on to the next slide. So now we have come to this patent judgment. This patent is also very much important. This is the Novartis versus Union of India. This is 2013 case. What was the basis? Rejection of a patent for a drug which was not inventive or had an superior efficacy. So every patent has, there is a limitation that you can get your patent registered for 20 years. After that, it will get expired. You cannot renew it. There is no option in patent to get it. For example, a trademark is for 10 years and you can get it renewed for another 10 years by paying the renewal fee. Okay. But in patent, there is no such provision for renewal. The patent will expire after that and you cannot renew it. So, so what do this pharmaceutical company? Most of the patent come from the pharmaceutical sector. It's a very large revenue earning sector. So, uh, so many pharmaceutical company, everybody who started manufacturing medicine for their salt for different combination, they go for uh, uh, patent for patent of that medicine. So in this case, Novartis filed an application to patent one of its drugs called Gleevec by covering it under the word invention mentioned in section 3 of the Patents Act 1970. Invention is described in section 3 of the Patents Act 1970. The Supreme Court rejected their application after a 7-year long battle by giving the following reasons. What are the reasons? Firstly, there was no invention of a new drug, as a mere discovery of an existing drug would not amount to invention. Secondly, Supreme Court upheld the view that under Indian Patent Act for grant of pharmaceutical patents, apart from proving the traditional test of novelty, inventive steps and application, there is a new test of enhanced therapeutic efficacy for claims that cover incremental changes to existing drugs, which also Novartis drug did not qualify. What is the basic line of this judgment? Very important landmark judgment that after a medicine patent nearing expires or expires, then what do these companies do? They 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 again file by making minute changes in that medicine or medicinal preparation or in salt and claim it as an invention. So Supreme Court in this case said no. For invention, these are the ingredients. The it must be it must be innovative. It must be something which does not exist in market. It does not. You cannot do that. Uh, you can just make some changes in the product or in the formula or in the chemical, and you come for the patent. No, if the original patent expires, you cannot change, make some minute changes in the old product and came out for came to the patent registry that please register my product. So this was the very important that you cannot, that you have given you have given a time, 20 years time to use that commercially, and in that 20 years a company gains a lot of revenue. So the it became a landmark judgment. The court, because the court looked beyond the technicalities and into the fact that the attempt of such companies to evergreen their patents and making them inaccessible at nominal rates. What has happened? The again, if the product is if the company has patent for 20 years, they are charging higher rates, but after 20 years when the patent will expire, then the other competitor could also use that salt and sell it for nominal price. But you, again, by making a minute changes in that salt or in that preparation, you are blocking the public, the general interest of the public, and again making available that uh, the product at higher price. This is also one of the very important case. Bayer Corporation versus Union of India. This was the first compulsory license given by uh, given in India, that on March 9, 2012, the Indian Patent Office granted its first compulsory license to Natco Pharma Limited for producing generic version of Bayer Corporation's patented medicine Nexavar, sorafenib tosylate, which is used in the treatment of liver and kidney cancer. So it was given to, the necessary compulsory license was given to an Indian company of the generic version. You must be aware that, for example, a medicine which is available in the market for 500 rupees, the same generic version of that medicine would be available for 15 rupees. So it was very important medicine, liver and used for treatment of liver and kidney cancer. So it was the first compulsory license was given to Natco Pharma even after the objection of the Bayer Corporation of the USA. The multinational giant Bayer Corporation was selling the drug at INR 2.80 lakh per drug for a month's course, and Natco promised to make available at the same price, at a price of 3% of what was charged at Bayer. It was at a price of about 8,800. Just imagine that for a month medicine, the person who is already in a grief, in problem, having a liver and kidney cancer, and is paying 2.80 lakh per month, and someone is um, promising that medicine for INR 8,800. So Bayer further moved to Intellectual Property Appellate Board and also filed appeal challenging compulsory license granted to Natco by the controller. The controller of patents granted this. So against the order of controller of patent, the Bayer Corporation moved to the Intellectual Property Appellate Board. The IPAB, that is Intellectual Property Appellate Board, dismissed the appeal and confirmed the grant of compulsory license, stating that it has dealt with each of the issue in detail in view of the significance of the order of compulsory license made in India for the first time. So, at many point of time in earlier cases, you have also seen in copyright, like Oxford case, and that general public interest is of utmost important, not the revenue of the companies. So, this is one of the important case. So, this was the case, also one important patent case. What was the actual date of grant of patent? These are the, if you will engage in patent practice and filing patent application, getting patent registrations, then you there was an issue that earlier, that what was the actual date of grant of a patent. So this is the case of Dr. Snehlata C. Gupte versus Union of India and others. So this case was instrumental in determining when a patent can said to be granted under the Patent Act. So there was a lack of clarity, and so uh, in this case, the decision taken by the controller on the file is the determining event for ascertaining the date of grant of patent and the acts of sealing of patent and entertaining the same in the register as ministerial acts evidencing the grant of payment. So So at the core of the legal challenges was the existing, which resulted in a time gap between the grant of patent and the issue of patent certificate. The court held that the date of grant of patent is the date on which the controller passes an order to that effect on the file, that is the day in which the controller makes a decision to grant a patent. The issue of certificate at a later date is then nothing more than a mere formality. So in this case, it was decided that the day on which the controller of patents make his comments or make puts on the file that a patent be granted, so that day is taken as the actual date of grant of payment, not patent, not the date of issue of certificate, because it might take 2 months, 3 months, 5 months. So for a company or a person who are uh, who are who have applied for the patent in that 3 months or 4 months can lose a substantial amount of market or business. So keeping in mind, this was decided that the actual date of grant of payment is the date on which the uh, the the comment is made on the file, or the controller of patent approved the patent on the file. So there are some landmark decisions in patent law. So since there is a time constraint, we have already exceeded the time or nearing completion of the time. So I will just spell the name, and you can once you get hold of this PPT, you can go through this. So there are cases of Dr. Alois Ruben case, Vishwanath Prasad case, Monsanto case, Mira's case, GlaxoSmithKline's case, Cipla case, and Novartis case. These are the very much important patent law judgments, landmark judgments. PT was based on the practical aspect of IP, is trademark, whether it is copyright, whether it is patent. So go through these cases, you will get a good insight. And if you are in the final year, or uh, if you want to start your practice, or if you want to uh, go for a job in IP sector, then these things you have to keep on uh, studying, and also always try for the latest judgment. There were always judgments coming into the decided by the court, and some judgments become the landmark judgment. So this you have studied a lot till in 3 years, either you are a 3 year resident or a 5 year resident, but this is the time of application. Move from theoretical knowledge to practical knowledge, and these judgments will surely lay a foundation for your career, for your future, and even those persons who are already practicing in the IPR, or whether in the corporate also, these things will lay a foundation. Hope your uh, uh, this judgment, you have got a good insights of the judgment. So I thank you everyone for their patience, for hearing, and the lecture, being a part of this webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Verma, for the presentation. With this, we will now conclude the session of today. If any of you have any questions, please email at ipcourse@fiki.com, and we'll forward the same to Mr. Verma, and he'll reply to the queries if you have with respect to this webinar. Thank you very much for joining.